What is up, YouTubers? Welcome back to the channel. This video, I promise, is going to be a lot shorter than the last one. What I wanted to get into on this video is basically just going to show you guys how I replace the valve springs and kind of redo the heads for the LS1 motor on the 1LE Camaro. And that's pretty much it on it. A couple of updates though. Hadn't had any new content. Otherwise, because of the fact I've been trying to get a sidewalk put into my shop because the stepping stones just aren't fucking cutting it. So want to get a sidewalk in before it freezes really hard. And also next week we'll be at SEMA show in Vegas. So I will probably not be doing anything next week unless I can get some time in there to get this motor put back together. And on the motor, so for the past 3 months, I have been buying parts and finally have everything I need to completely fully assemble this motor. So hopefully I can get it put back together and you won't see this car anymore, hopefully in the near future. The only thing I have not ordered is the back half of the exhaust, which, probably I'm not gonna show that anyway. Other than that, that's about it. And then hopefully we'll be getting back to some C10 videos, which I was thinking about doing the fuel system, the finishing of it, running the line, showing how I run my lines, and doing the electrical from the fuel tank to the fuel rail on the LS1 motor. So without further ado, I'm going to get into showing you guys how I did these heads before I got them all finished up to put back on the motor. Okay, let's get on with doing these heads. What I'm going to be doing is replacing the valve springs, the spring retainers, and also I'm going to be replacing the valve guide seals as well. I've started by prepping the heads with just cleaning them in a parts washer and then blowing them off with high pressure compressed air, and these are pretty clean and dry. To be pulling these springs out, I'm actually going to be using this tool from Texas Speed. It actually bolts to the factory trunnion with a single bolt, and you just move this along the trunnion as you're doing the different valves and different springs. Has slots on both ends for 3/8 ratchet, and it does not take much pressure to move those valve springs and get your retainers off. If I remember right, I believe this tool was around $60 or $70 shipped. And so far I have found this to be one of the best and most effective tools for doing this. And depending on how you do these, I'm going to pull these out one at a time, but I still like to mark them more for orientation purposes than the fact that I might get them lost. But if you're pulling all the valves out, make sure you mark them so you don't get them mixed up unless you're going to be doing a full valve job and putting new valves in which case then it wouldn't matter. I also like to be doing these on a nice soft older towel, just so I do not worry about messing up my surface for resealing purposes when I put my new head gaskets on. Again, in case I did not say it already, I just snug this bolt down. I do not torque it to spec. Snug is good for just pulling these apart. I'd like to show you how to do this completely on camera, but because I don't have a cameraman, I'm going to have to show you guys kind of the basics while I do it, because I don't have 3 hands, and this actually requires 2 hands to do this, where these heads have been on the vehicle for 100,000 plus miles. So as you can see, as I am pushing the valve spring down, the retainers are stuck, which, that's common. These have been on here for a while. So what I need to actually do is push down on the valve and the spring and then tap the valve face from the other side of the head. And for doing something like that, a soft wooden object works good, like the back of a small hammer, or something with a rubber end, or a plastic or rubber face mallet. You just want to essentially push down on the valve while striking the face of the valve gently enough that you're going to push this stem through and knock out the keepers. And these keepers can go flying, so please be careful. Do not lose them, especially if you plan to reuse them. But that's about it. This is also where a magnet will come in handy to grab a hold of your retainers, just in case they go flying. but essentially there is the spring retainer and the spring, and now you can just push your valve through the bottom of the head. Now we'll get to the seals. Now again, these little babies are a two-piece design and they come off pretty easy. There's a seal part, and then you have this little spring seat right here that you want to pull off with a magnet. As you can see, there's a little bit more cleaning up to do here. I'm going to wipe this down, and then I like to clean up the bore guide with a plastic brush is the best thing to use. And then I want to also lubricate it with a little bit of motor oil, because you definitely don't want to run these dry. And then take your valves, do the same thing, just clean them off, wipe them down, and then put a light coat of oil on these before you put them back in. Okay, the next step is to put our one-piece seal on here. I got these from Texas Speed. These are a lot easier to use than the two-piece design, and I also got the springs and titanium retainers from Texas Speed as well. Basically just want to put a little bit of lube on the shaft here, and these slide right on. And when I mean slide on, I mean you're going to want to take and use like a socket and press it on by hand. It doesn't take a lot of force, but there is a little pressure required to push those down. Final step is going to be putting our new dual spring retainer and put the valve through the bottom. Make sure that you lubricate that stem really well, and then compress it all down and drop your retainers back in. Again, I do not have three hands, so I cannot show you this step by step, but essentially get it all together, get everything lined up, and you just want to compress that down past the stem and drop in both locks and then release, and it will be set. One thing that is nice about this is when you're using new valve guide seals, the pressure will usually hold the valve in place, so you can usually do this one-handed. So now just have to switch this over to the next trunnion guide, and basically you have to do 16 of these and you're done, and you put your heads back on. Now I will say that obviously you can use this tool and you can do what I've just done with the heads still on the vehicle. Granted, you know, I had to do this because I did a complete motor disassembly, but if you're just doing new springs, retainers and seals, you can do this with heads on the vehicle. You just need to take your plugs out and pressurize your combustion ports with compressed air to make sure you keep that valve up all the time, because you do not want to drop the valve with the head still on the vehicle. Usually that's a bad day. So there you have it, how to do springs on LS heads. So there you go. I mean, it's pretty basic as far as you know, replacing springs and stuff on the heads. I just, you know, as always, I like to do a video of stuff just to show you how it's done. A lot of you guys know how to do it or have a basic concept of how to do it, but there are always people, myself included, that, you know, there's always something, whether it's, you know, in construction or, you know, something I just don't 100% know, and I want to know for sure the right way to do it. So I'd like to show a video how to do it for those of you that just really just want to double check or don't know how to do the various aspects of putting, you know, one of these motors back together again. Before I forget, just in case I didn't cover it in the video, the springs I used were Texas Speed. They are for a 660 max lift. They are double spring, they're polished. I am unaware of the spring rate though, so sorry, I can't help you out on there, but they are on the Texas Speed website. The retainers were titanium from Texas Speed, and the seals were also Texas Speed. I don't know if it's their actual brand or they outsource, but you get the point. Anyway, so next video will most likely be the full rest assembly of the motor, getting the heads back on, putting the lifters in, the lifter trays, you know, yada, yada, yada. So stay tuned for that, and also please stay tuned. I promise more C10 videos are coming. I've got to get this car done. It's one of my dailies, and I just need to get it out of the shop. It has been on the hoist for like 2 months now, and I just need the availability to do other stuff. So it's got to go. As always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Those of you that subscribe and like the channel, I mean, I really appreciate it. I'd hopefully get these numbers up in the future. You know, maybe get more viewers. That would always be good too. So thanks again for watching, everybody. Thanks for your support. Thanks for your questions. And thanks for the positivity in the comments. That I really do appreciate. And sometimes it gives me a little smile. So when I can smile, that is always good. So till next time, we'll see you guys later.